Hello students, today we discuss chapter 1 Nutrition in Plants. The components of food that are necessary for our body are called nutrients. So this you have already studied about different types of nutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals. These are all nutrients that we get from the food. Nutrition is the mode of taking food by an organism and its utilization. So how this food, the components of food are taken by the body and utilized by the body, that is the process of nutrition. So there are two types of nutrition you have studied, autotrophic and heterotrophic. Plants are autotrophic because they can prepare their own food. Animals are considered heterotrophic because they depend on others, plants or animals for their food. But some plants can be heterotrophic also, and we will study about that in this chapter. Okay, so first let us discuss about photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is the process of preparation of food by the plants by using carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll of the leaves. During this process, oxygen is released. So along with carbohydrates which is formed during photosynthesis, oxygen is also produced. These carbohydrates are finally converted into starch. So here the equation of photosynthesis is given here. Carbon dioxide plus water in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll produces carbohydrate and oxygen. So the carbohydrate is in the form of glucose, which is then converted into starch. So what are the raw materials that are required for photosynthesis? So four things are required: sunlight, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, water and minerals. So sunlight, as we know, we get from the sun. Chlorophyll is a green color pigment that is present in leaves of plants. Sometimes in some plants it may be present in stem also. For example, in cactus, chlorophyll is present in stem, but mostly chlorophyll is present in leaf, and the green color of the leaves is due to chlorophyll. Carbon dioxide, the plants get it from the air. How does carbon dioxide enter the plant? It enters through the small pore present in the leaves, which are called stomata. Water and minerals, the plant absorbs from the soil. There are special tissues called xylem which transport this water from the roots to the leaves. So these are the raw materials which are to be now used by the leaf to prepare food. Now let us see the section of the leaf and let us see where all these things are located in the leaves. So first of all, chlorophyll. Where is chlorophyll located in the leaves? The cells of the leaves, as you can see here in the diagram, the cells of the leaves are called mesophyll cells. So inside the mesophyll cells, there is an organelle called chloroplast. Inside the chloroplast, this chlorophyll or this green pigments called chlorophyll are located or are found. Now apart from chlorophyll, the small openings in the leaves, which are called the stomata, are also there in the leaf, as you can see here. This is the stomatal structure that is found in the uppermost and the lowermost layer of the leaves, you can see. Now this consists of two cells which are called guard cells. You can see the shape of the guard cells are like kidney beans. Kidney beans means rajma. The shape is like rajma. Kidney bean shaped cells which are called guard cells. And these guard cells, they have a opening in between which is called the stomatal opening. So this is the basic structure of stomata, two guard cells which surround a pore or opening which is called the stomatal opening. Next we go to the process of photosynthesis. So in this diagram we can see how the process of photosynthesis takes place. So the main process of course takes place in the leaves. The chlorophyll of the leaves, it absorbs the light of the sun, that is the sunlight, and the energy of the sunlight is used to produce carbohydrates from carbon dioxide and water. In this process, as you can see, oxygen is also produced which is released by the plant. So this is the only process where oxygen is released, because in most of the process what we see is that oxygen is used up. For example, respiration or burning, oxygen is used up, but in this process oxygen is released. So the oxygen that we breathe and all the organisms breathe is basically due to the result of photosynthesis. So if there is no photosynthesis, all the oxygen will be used up and there will be no oxygen left. So carbohydrates and oxygen, these are two things that are produced during photosynthesis. Now apart from plants, there are some other organisms, as you can see, algae. Okay, so the algae also produces they can produce their own food because they have chlorophyll. They are green in color, as you can see. This algae you will find in ponds and in lakes, and they are green in color. They can be of different colors, but they have chlorophyll and they can prepare their own food, so they are also autotrophic. Now, carbohydrates are formed through photosynthesis. What about the other nutrients? You have studied about fats, you have studied about proteins. Now, carbohydrates are formed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So, other nutrients also use that carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen to be formed by the plants. So, fats are also composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But proteins are also made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but it also has nitrogen. So, where does this nitrogen come from? Now, plants, they cannot take nitrogen from the air. As you know, nitrogen is abundant in the air. 70% of the air is nitrogen, but the plants cannot absorb nitrogen from the air. The plants can only absorb nitrogen in the form of nitrate or nitrite, which will be available in the soil. So, this nitrogen, this atmospheric nitrogen, has to be converted into soluble nitrogen, which can be absorbed by the plants from the soil. And this is done by some bacteria, which we will study in the later chapter. Now, let us discuss about the different types of, as I told you, most of the plants can produce their own food, but there are some examples of plants which depend on others for their food. So, they are heterotrophic plants. So, we'll study about some of the heterotrophic plants like parasitic and saprotrophs, insectivorous plants. First, we will discuss about parasitic plants. So, if you see the diagram, you can see this is Cuscuta or Amarbel. You can see yellow color plant that has covered this whole tree, and slowly this tree will die because this Cuscuta will absorb all the nutrition from this plant, and the plant will slowly die. So, Cuscuta is yellow in color, you can see. So, it doesn't have chlorophyll because it does not prepare its food. It is a parasite. It will take the food from the other plant. So, this plant will be known as the host. So, the plant on which the parasite lives and derives nutrition is called the host. So, as you can see here, this Cuscuta is deriving nutrition from the plant on which it is living, which is the host. Okay, now this is an insectivorous plant. This is a pitcher plant. So, this pitcher plant eats insect. The pitcher-like structure in pitcher plant is the modified part of a leaf. The apex of the leaf forms the lead, as you can see here. This whole is a leaf, and the apex of the leaf, it forms the lead of the pitcher, and the rest of the leaf, it produces the pitcher. Now, what happens is that this pitcher, inside the pitcher there are some hairs which are directed downwards, so that when this insect will enter the pitcher plant, the hairs will catch the insect will not be able to move out of the pitcher because of the hairs. Also, this lead, it closes as soon as the insect moves inside the pitcher. The lead closes, the insect gets trapped, and there are some digestive juices inside the pitcher plant which will digest the insect. Now, why does the insectivorous plant eat insect? It is green in color and it can produce its own food, but the soil in which it grows, that soil has very less nitrogen, so it cannot get nitrogen from the soil. So it eats the insect so that it can get nitrogen from the body of the insect. So that is why we can call insectivorous plants as partially heterotrophic, because though it can produce its carbohydrates, to produce its protein it requires nitrogen, which is not present in the soil, and so it eats the insect to get the nitrogen through which it can produce the protein. Okay, next we go to saprotrophs. So, saprotrophic mode of nutrition is basically the mode of nutrition in which organisms take in nutrients from dead or decaying matter. So, here are some examples. You can see the example of bread mold, and you can see the example of mushrooms. They all will grow on dead and decaying matter, and they will absorb the nutrition from them. So here they secrete the digestive juices on this dead and decaying matter and then convert it into the solution, and then they will absorb these nutrients from it. Now we come to symbiotic relationship, in which two organisms they live together and share shelter and nutrients. Okay, so in this diagram you can see there are algae and fungi living together, which is called the lichens. In lichens, chlorophyll containing partner, which is an algae, and a fungus live together. The fungus provides shelter, water and mineral to the algae, and in return the algae provides food which it prepares by the process of photosynthesis. So in symbiotic relationship, both of them help each other. Two organisms live together and both of them help each other. As we can see in lichens, the algae provides food and the fungus provide shelter, water and minerals. Let us see another example of symbiotic relationship. Okay, this is another example where you can see this is a symbiotic association between root nodules of leguminous plants. So which are leguminous plants? All types of dals that you eat, say moong, masoor, arhar, this all types of dals are legumes. Similarly, pea, beans, all these are leguminous plant. So if you see a leguminous plant, you can, if it is small, you can take out that plant, and in the roots you will find, if you see here carefully, you will find some nodule like structure, and inside these nodules you have this bacteria which is rhizobium bacteria. So how does they help each other? How are they symbiotically how they form a symbiotic relationship? The nodules of legumes, they provide the bacteria places for them to stay or shelter to the bacteria, whereas the bacteria, they can fix nitrogen. This rhizobium bacteria can fix nitrogen in the soil, so that nitrogen can be used by the plants. So these legumes are very useful plants for the farmers. So the farmers, if they grow legumes, the soil becomes very rich in nitrogen, so they do not have to add chemical fertilizers, and the soil is naturally fertile because of the presence of rhizobium. So this is another symbiotic association which we see